to the latest episode of 305 Vox Populi here in the town of Miami Lakes. I'm Mayor Manny Cid, and we have a great guest today. We have Luis Perez, who's always behind the scenes, but we wanted to bring him out so you guys can see him, hear him, know his story. Lou, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Manny. How about yourself?
All is good. All is good. I got to thank some of our sponsors. We're powered by Miami Lakes AutoMall. Shout out to my good friend Fred Senra. They're located at 16600 Northwest 57th Avenue. Their phone number is 305-455-3510. Thank you again, Fred, for the seed money to start this podcast. Lou, I know you like this mural, man, but now it's the first time I get to ask you that. What do you think?
I get to see it from this angle. Man, it's cool. I think it's a reflection of what we're trying to do here, highlight the city of Miami Lakes and, Miami.
Local artist Grisel Gajano, she did a great job here. Her phone number is 786-353-8608. And our food sponsor today, Gauchos Gourmet Market, amazing. If you see the food they brought in, I know you had a bite already, right? What'd you think?
I haven't, but I've had a bite before, right? And when they were the sponsors before, it's good stuff. I remember Googling them, trying to figure out who they are, but great stuff.
Absolutely. So Eddie, shout out to Eddie. He does a great job over there. He's a good friend. They're located at 7357 Miami Lakes Drive, 33014. Their phone number is 305-384-1334. And our film production team, the Matter Lakes Broadcasting. Give it up for those folks. They do a great job. It started off as just an idea. Last year, we had about 7 students. And this year, you're up to like 90, right?
Yeah. But we got it rocking, and we're just getting started.
Absolutely. They're also not only doing the podcast, but they're broadcasting basketball games, volleyball games, all sorts of stuff at the school, which is really phenomenal, really showcasing to young people how to edit, how to direct, how to produce, do from A to Z, which is truly remarkable. Lou, man, I hate to put you on the spot, but you got to kick this off right. Can you do a 305 Vox Populi like in your voice? A lot of folks don't know, but Lou is one of the guys, the number 2 announcer for the Heat and for other sports throughout South Florida. So he's announced Miami Heat games. So when you hear Dos Minutos, that he's one of the guys that does that, which is really cool. If you want to just start it off the right way, man.
All right, we can start off like this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the 305 Vox Populi. There you go. With Mayor Manny Cid.
Sounds good. We're going to change that intro from the podcast to that. But Lou, one question, and I think it's really becoming the theme of the podcast is why do what you do, right? And I think that why is so important to the discussion that we have here, because we know that there's going to be 90 students who work on this, who look at this, who see this, plus all the other people in our community that watch this. So what's your why? When did you say, man, I want to work on my voice. I want to be the voice of the Heat, of other St. Thomas University, of Matter Lakes, of the Harlem Globetrotters, of FIBA now. Yeah. But why? When did you make that choice? When did you say, you know what, I want to do that?
I think in its infancy, like a younger version of me would answer, I just wanted to have fun. Like I wanted to have a career that I'm gonna have fun with. Like my office is not a cubicle. My office is the American Airlines arena. My office, with the Globetrotters, every arena in the world, And I think that's where the infancy of that answer. But the older you get, and I think you could reflect to this as well, is you slowly become the person you always wanted when you were a kid. And that's honestly what I if I really think about it. My why is because I wish I had this available, especially when we're talking about the stuff I've done for Matter Lakes, at St. Thomas, at these schools. I always wish that I had that avenue of producing content, of learning how to do the digital media stuff, because I always found it interesting, but it wasn't available back then, at least not as much as it is now. And I guess full circle to answer it, I've done all these cool things in my career, and then I come back and my backyard is exactly where I want to influence it, Yeah, it's all fun. It's all amazing if I did a game in California or New York, whatever, Madison Square Garden with the Globetrotters. That's great. But what am I doing in, not Madison Square Garden, but what am I doing in Hialeah Garden? What am I doing in Miami Gardens? What am I doing in Miami Lakes? And that's where I wanted to start doing that giving back. I want someone to excel further than I did because they had all this accessible at 17, 16, and not how I had to get it accessible in my 20s.
No, that's very true, and I'll never forget. We were working on a summer series. We were talking to the kids, to you, to the entire team. We're like, hey, why don't we work on this summer series? It'll be cool. We'll do it virtual. We'll do all this. We ended up not doing one, and I'll never forget. Lou calls me. He's like, hey, man, I just got this call from the Harlem Globetrotters. They want me to go to England with them. Yeah. I'm like, yo. It's a no-brainer, dude. I mean, that is amazing. That Harlem Globetrotter, their theme, right? I mean,
the whole podcast should be you singing the theme. I think that would sell. No,
but how amazing was that? Share some of those stories, right? Not only that, but also how difficult it is to travel, because people see the cool stuff when you're out there, this and that. But traveling every single night in a country you don't know, announcing in front of crowds that you don't know how they're, you know what I mean, how they're going to react or not. Talk about that.
Yeah. Nothing makes you more of a versatile human being than traveling. I think we all agree on that. Furthermore, when you actually have to market to them, and there's things that stick, things that don't stick, especially in another country. But I want to talk about where that all started. Obviously, I was announcing games here and there. Like, there wasn't a gig too small or too big for me here. I would do a high school game. I would email the ADs around. Hey, I see you have a district championship. I have my own speakers. Like, when I'm talking about like the bare necessities. Like, I could provide it for you. I got you. Then one thing went really well. It was St. Thomas. I started going to St. Thomas. Their baseball team started doing really well, and I'm only as good as the association that I'm with. If the baseball team is doing good, more people are watching, and then they're, oh, who's that guy announcing the game, right? Thanks to that, obviously, I got the attention of the president of St. Thomas, David Armstrong. And
Dave's a good guy, man. I love Dave. He's a good dude.
Amazing guy. The Globetrotter job became available. I applied, and I told Dave, hey, man, I think if I put a president of a university as my reference, this would look really well. Sure enough, they call President Armstrong, and Armstrong just he goes, I'm really busy, but I have time for this. And he stood there for an hour selling me to the Harlem Globetrotters. That's all I needed. So as much as I want to say it was all me, it's never all you. It is never all you. It's always your connections. And that's why it matters, these little small things that you do with people, because did I know when I met him that was going to be the difference? And it turned out to be the difference. So now, to go to the traveling stuff. It is a combination of the best and the worst moments in your life. I'll be very honest with you. The best, because you get to see all these new places. You get to meet all these places. My Rolodex, if you will, is now pages long. I know so many people. I've added so many people on social media and stuff like that, they're interested in your career because you become this interesting person that you traveled all over the world. But at the same time, you're traveling all the time. So you're missing, for me, for sure, I'm un cubanito from Hialeah, you know how we are. We, mami, abuela, we have super mamitis, if you will. And that is something you miss, I remember when I went to England for 2 months, I came back here, and the first thing I wanted to do was go to a bakery and have a cafecito. I didn't want a barista. I didn't want some sophisticated lady making me a coffee in the shape of a dove and a heart. No, I wanted la vieja de bakery.
Con la pumita.
Con la pumita. Deme un cafecito. And ¿qué tú quieres? I wanted that. I missed that so much, So you miss that. And to go back to your original thing, I think it's important for students, especially in this area, the Miami Lakes Hialeah area, to see people just like them who have mamitis, who want the espumita. But go ahead, man, do your life. Go travel. Go see the world. Because not only would you appreciate that experience, but you also would appreciate this city so much more because you realize how cool Miami is. Nothing has made me appreciate where our hometown is, even Miami Lakes, more than going other places.
No, that is very true, and something powerful that you said, because a lot of times people see success or see what you're doing, what other folks are doing that are successful. They're like, oh, se le dieron mango bajito. You know what I mean? That guy, it was low-lying fruit. No. That mango was all the way to the top of the tree. And one thing you mentioned was that you would call the ADs and be like, hey, let's make this happen. Nobody did it for you.
Absolutely
Nobody gave it to you. Not. And I think that's a powerful message when you share that you went out and you said, you know what, I want to do this. I'm going to go out and get it. But calling those ADs, that story, that little tidbit is so powerful for this youth. Because nobody called you and said, hey, what do you think about doing this? I'm going to give you this. No. I want this. I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to work hard. I mean, go through some of those calls to some of those random ADs that you picked up? Because I think that's a really powerful tidbit for future generations.
I think the best phone call, if back in those days, if I could think, and this made such a difference in my life, circa 2010, 2012, Miami Central high school football had Dalvin Cook, had Joe Yerby. You know, like these guys were poised, just signed a huge Nike contract. And, you know, in public school system, that's like unheard of. And LaToya Williams at the time was the athletic director there. She needed an announcer. She needed an announcer, and she heard through the grapevine about who I was. And it was really give a kid a chance at that moment. And I've never done football at any level at that point. I was more towards baseball at that point. And she gives me a call. She tells me what's going on, this and that. And I'm like, all right, yeah, you're Miami Central. You've always been great. Last thing that I think was undefeated seasons and 40,000 people at Travis Powell Stadium. Like, this was great exposure. And I'm not going to mention her name, but I remember one of the people who ran Travis Powell Stadium was like, who are you? When I came in the park, I'm like, oh, I'm announcing the game. She goes, no, you're not. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm not announcing the game? She's like, I ain't never seen you here. You don't announce the game. She goes, what you know about football? Like, she was like, who is this guy? You know, we have a system here. We have something the way it goes. And LaToya was like, no, he's great. He's great. He's great. Next thing you know, that season goes on. Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook. He's with the Minnesota Vikings right now. And everything I would say, the nicknames I would give, were starting to get printed out on shirts. Joe Joystick Yerby. Dalvin, you did it again, Cook. Were these things that were just printed out on shirts, and I became like cemented with that run. Now guess who's calling me for football all the time? The Booker T's, the Carroll Cities, right? And all these other schools, which turned into me doing football for FIU, which turned into they're just doing a bunch of other things. But again, it was something that happened in its infancy, and you never know what you seem to be a small gig. Because high school football, if I say it in its bare minimum, high school football is high school football.
Yep.
However, though, this became a huge deal, and I was again attached to it. That's I guess my legacy isn't my legacy. It's who I was attached to, in that line of work. You know.
No, that's very true. And going from Traz Powell to then sitting in the AAA, which I think is FTX now Arena or something, sitting in the AAA and looking around and saying, "Man, I'm Dwayne Wade's here." You know, was it in the Chris Bosh era as well? Did you?
So no, at that point I was still in college. But it's funny you say Dwayne Wade. So again, it's the butterfly effect. I think I've talked to you about the butterfly effect. You respect the butterfly effects. One thing leads to another. So that led to FIU football, so on and so forth, right? FIU football, the main guy for FIU football is Mike Bayamonte, the announcer for the Heat. There was one game he couldn't do. I stepped in for him, but he was able to make it at halftime and the rest of the game. He asked, "Who's that guy?" We started to do conversations, and about maybe 8 months later, I won't forget, it's December, 8 months later, he's like, "Hey, let's go have lunch." And you know, if you're a singer, you have your person that you fanboy for. Mike Biamonte to me is, like that's my Drake, and I'm a teenage girl. You know what I mean? Like, that's, to have a comparison. So I'm like, man, he wants to have dinner. Like, what's up? This is pretty cool. We go have dinner after I just did a FIU basketball game. We go have dinner, and he tells me, "Hey, we are looking for a valid, good backup announcer for the Heat. We think you're awesome. We want to give you some reps, and get you affiliated." And ever since then, I've always been attached to the emails. I always know what's going on with the Heat. And every year, I have to, do a consent form that the NBA earns the rights to anything that I do and stuff like that. And it's so cool to be finally in that. And I've been able to do a couple games. So it's funny you said Dwayne Wade. My first preseason game happened to be Dwayne Wade's last preseason game. He just got in from Chicago and stuff like that, and he hasn't really been out there since this. So I get to, substitution number 3, Dwayne Wade. I did it in my most Mike Biamonte way, and I heard the roar. Obviously, they're not roaring for me; they're roaring for Dwayne Wade, right? But I'm like, wow, I'm now in a position where I command the troops. Like I'm a huge Heat fan, and now I'm the voice at this moment, Mike Biamonte obviously still the voice, but at this moment, thanks to him being so modest and generous, I got to rally, the pride of the 305.
That is cool. But that moment in itself, that culmination, it must have been surreal, right? So I think we all. Well, but was that the moment in your life where you were like, you know what? No. Okay.
That was at the oh my God, this is happening.
And touch upon that oh my God, this is happening moment.
The oh my God, this is happening was probably a year later. Because I don't know. I at that moment I felt like I'm not the guy yet. I'm not the guy, and I still feel like I'm not the guy either. I want you to know that. Well aware where I stand though. But 2019, Orlando City, the city of Orlando. Yep. All right, needed an announcer. Their guy just got a job in Vegas, and I applied for it. Let's see what happens. I apply. I get a phone call, and they're like, "Hey, we see that you live in Miami. Is that something you're willing to do? Sometimes we have 2 games a week and stuff like that." And I'm like, you know what? 3.5 hours? Absolutely right. Oh, whatever. I'll drive it. I drove the 3.5 hours. I tried out, and they're like, hey, you are clear cut the guy for it. Let's do it. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. When are your games start at 7 p.m.? I'll leave Miami around 3, 2 o'clock. And I thought about it, and I'm like, this sounds so crazy. But people literally sit in a cubicle for 8 to 9 hours a day. I'm going to sit in my car for 3 to get to Orlando, 2 to do a game, 3 to come back. It's literally the same time that you've applied to your cubicle comfy job, and I get to sing for 3 hours driving down the turnpike.
Practice working on your vocal cords.
No, honestly, to get my mind out of the fact that I have to do a game. But so that Orlando City thing happens, and literally I'm there for 3-4 weeks. They get named for the All-Star game. The MLS All-Star game is now happening in Orlando. Obviously MLS is going to bring their own guy. Hey, guy who just started announcing MLS 2 weeks ago, you're going to be the guy in for the All-Star game.
Wow.
And here I am. We're playing. It's the MLS All-Star game is a little different from the other ones. It's like a National League, American League. It's the MLS All-Stars versus normally a great international team, right? So we're playing Atlético de Madrid. This is a darling in Europe. We have this game. It's being broadcasted in 70 different countries, packed house in Orlando. Obviously, Fox Sports carries it and whatnot. And I remember waking up that day going, yo, you went from begging athletic directors to call a high school game to here you are now doing the MLS All-Star game. I do the MLS All-Star game. I get granted after that to do the USA team for both men and women, the national team. I do those. And then the Globetrotters call, and I said, you know what? Thank you so much. And it's crazy because a year ago, I would have been like, I'm going to die in Orlando. This is what I'm going to give. This is it. The Globetrotters call me, hey, would you like to travel the world doing what you're doing? And I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm in my 20s. At that time, my later 20s. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Because my main why was to have fun. And that sounds a lot more fun. And,
yeah.
And that sounds a lot more fun. And I been there ever since.
So talk about the transition of just focusing on your development to where now one of the you've taken the podcast to that next level. You jumped in. We started. I'll never forget. We started last year. It was a conversation with Rovi. We're like, hey, let's get rocking. Let's see if we can do this. He had got the top students from the school. There wasn't a broadcast academy yet. There wasn't anything. And at the beginning we were filming, and I know you guys remember with a cell phone. I think it was a Joseph's cell phone.
Yeah.
We were filming with that, and talk about that transition, because I know my sister's the one that put us in contact. She was like, "Hey, good friend of mine wants to talk to you. He's going to be working at Matter Lakes, and he knows everything about podcast, broadcasting, design, production. What do you think?" And that that conversation to where it's at today. But I think a transition where, hey, you've been working on self-development for all these years. Now, not only are you developing on your own professionally, but you're giving back. You're teaching that next generation of folks that might want to announce or just want to do the behind the scenes?
Yeah, so that transition actually came out of tragedy. The pandemic. The pandemic comes around, I'm done with tour, whether I like it or not, right? Everybody's done with the whole traveling. Live entertainment's done. And mind you, I just got into it. Literally just a year and a half ago is when I made the decision. And I'm like, man, all right, I'm sitting around. I'm like, what am I going to do now? Then I get the phone call, again, David Armstrong from St. Thomas, about a school, Archbishop Coleman Carroll, down in Southwest. Need some help. They're about to close down. Not officially, but that's what, that's pretty much the feeling. And can you do anything digital marketing? Like, let's go back into your roots, the other stuff. Because I haven't had to edit a video in years. I'm doing so well in the announcing world. Why do that, right? But now I have to go back to that because I got to make myself essential, right? So, like, what can you do to help their digital media presence? I go down to the school. It's ran by 4 lovely old nuns, the cutest things in the world. But I just look at them. I'm like, I understand the disconnect here. I don't think the teenage population is relating to these nuns that run the school, right? It's a Catholic school. And I'm driving over there. And at this time, the NBA Finals is going on, right? The NBA Finals is going on. Actually, the Eastern Conference Finals. And they're talking about Kendrick Nunn about to be Kendrick Nunn's about to be the all-team all-rookie, first-team all-rookie. And I go, what if I make a video of these nuns shutting out to their nun and offering their service, right? I make the video. It goes super viral. Super viral. The school goes up in enrollment like crazy. I have realized I have another avenue I can do this at. JC Gill, great friend of mine, the athletic director at Matter Lakes, he's like, hey, we have a totally different problem at Matter Lakes. Not even a problem, a solution. We can use this. We're going to build a new school. We need this as an academy. Like this is for them, it was crisis, It was like PR crisis mode, and it worked out well. At Matter Lakes, he's like, hey, we can use this to be even bigger and better. And I had the decision to make. I'm like, you know what? This Hialeah boy needs to go back home. And I don't know at what level at that time. I don't know at what level this can go, but let's see where I can help this. Obviously, know where the path we're going in the last year, and in just a year, it turned out from being just a small idea to this. And the number one reason that I pitched this as an academy, not because I want people to be broadcasters. I don't want the next CNN reporter. I don't want the next Channel 7 employee. We are living in a world that no matter what you're good at or what your field is, you need to know how to create digital media content. Look at you. This is helping. This is helping the town of Miami Lakes. You know what I mean? This is helping. This is uplifting and letting people know what the town of Miami Lakes is doing. And you are in government. This is also helping the world of education. This is no longer a game of entertainment, not a game of Channel 7 and whatnot. Heck, there's even look at Dr. Pimple Popper. What's her name? On TLC.
Got it.
She is a dermatologist. But however, she started making videos about popping pimples. Call it disgusting. Call it what you want. But her creation of digital content has now made her the dermatologist. You get what I'm trying to say?
That is true.
So it's imperative. It's important that they know how to create this digital content for whatever. Like, you're a mechanic, no problem. Here you go. How can you market yourself as a top mechanic through this forum? So that's the important part. This academy that I want to build, is being built. It's not to be, the all-star CNN reporter. I hope so. That'd be great. But if you own your own business and use this as your way of excelling, that's where I'll be the happiest.
That's very, very true, and that's really powerful for that future generation. So as we wrap up, we got 2 things that we do every time. It's better than I.
Yeah.
Yo, first off, and I usually look at Lou when I ask this, but y'all, anybody got a question that you want to throw in there? We need somebody to step up. Michael, what's up? Or Albert?
What's the future? What's the future of the program? Where do you see yourself in maybe 5-10 years?
So that's 2 questions, right? Where do I see the program, the Matter Lakes program, and where do I see myself? The program, I see it being self-sufficient. After a while, you get them all the tools necessary. You get the Adobe Premiere and stuff like that. And what happens is the seniors and juniors start teaching the sophomores and the freshmen. And then they become seniors and juniors, and they teach the sophomores and freshmen. It becomes, at the end of the day, you can't be too advanced because you lose students after 4 years, right? I mean, Duke would be a national champion back to back, or North Carolina, right? If they still were able to hold on to Michael Jordan, right, for after those years, right? But in the school system, that's the best way to succeed. Is the instructor kind of just becomes like not fly on the wall, but intervenes when necessary, because it becomes a self-taught a program.
It's like an NBA basketball team where you manage.
Exactly.
More than coach. In college and high school, you're coaching, you're teaching. But you want to get to that level where you're just managing, and they're teaching themselves that next. Like Udonis Haslem on the Heat. Exactly. Udonis Haslem's a teammate, but he's really the coach. I mean, that's just real. But something very similar to that role.
Yeah. And to answer the where am I, man, go back to my why. As long as I'm happy. As long as I'm happy. I hope to be one of the professional ranks here and stuff like that, but I'm never going to say no to any opportunity. I'm just as willing to jump ship as I was back then to do something cooler, bigger, and better. However, though, I think I've done the right thing with making sure I'm attached to the community. That's where I feel the benefit of this pandemic has been for me, which is a really weird statement to say, right? But I think I remember seeing a meme or something like that. If the pandemic didn't make you a hustler, you're not a hustler. Well, no, I not so much in the word hustler, but if the pandemic didn't make you really look at things from a broader from another perspective, because at the end of the day, yeah, I can announce 1 million games, and I'll be the happiest guy in the world, and maybe you're attached to all that stuff. But if I built a program that 20 years from now I look back and go, if it wasn't for that conversation where I convinced Rowie that this mattered, this would have never happened. That student would never be at where they're at and whatnot. I think that's where the future is. But overall, the honest answer, we don't know what the future holds. But we do know that we're making the right steps today to hope that the future tomorrow looks right.
You always got to leave a positive legacy, and you're definitely doing that at Matter Lakes. So any questions you got for me? I know that's you always got questions. So I
always got questions for you. Man, I'm gonna ask you the question no one's gonna ask you, and I want the best answer for it. We need you past town of Miami Lakes, man. We need you past your leadership here. I think you have 3 years left or something like that. 4?
Literally next Tuesday. On Tuesday, it marks the 3-year period where I got 3 years left after that. So, as much as I like to be the Hialeah kid that comes back and shows you, hey, a kid just like you could do this type of stuff. You know what I mean? I see that in you in the government aspect. I feel so unrelated to most government officials that I see. Now, obviously, I feel super related to you. So you got to keep it going, man. You got to keep it going. Man, I'll tell you that. I promise you, I'm gonna run for something. I'm gonna swing big. What it is, I don't know, because 3 years in politics, talking about the future of the program, you don't know what the future holds. But 3 years in politics is an eternity. So I don't know what the lands. I'll give you an example. The Florida legislature, the county commission, Congress is all going through redistricting, meaning the lines for different districts, school board, everything is getting drawn as we speak. Literally as we speak, they are drawing those lines based on the census results from 2020. So I don't even know what those districts will look like. I don't know where Miami Lakes is going to be positioned there. So a lot of things might shift within the next 6-7 months, or it might the future look different. But I can guarantee you, I will definitely run for something. I'm not afraid. One of the big things I tell kids all the time, I'm not afraid to lose, and not that I want to lose, but I'm not afraid to lose. And I think that's one of the main mistakes that people make, be it in public service, be it in a business, be it in being an announcer, is that people are afraid to say, hey, if I do that, what if I lose? Swing big. You fall forward. With Denzel Washington always talk. I know I always quote him on that, but I could tell you, I will be swinging for the fences in 3 years, whatever that may be. I'm gonna run for something. What it is, I don't know, and I'm being very real that as we speak, those lines are being drawn for every single political public service position.
Absolutely. Before we sign off on this, I do want to give a couple highlights here, man. Yes, I'm the godfather of this stuff at Matter Lakes, man, and thank God that the conversation with Roe v. went the way it went. But thanks to that vision and what the reality is becoming, what is now this program without the efforts of Albertico, without the efforts of Ariel, and without the efforts of Micah? Like those right there, like that is the centerpiece of making it all work. And at the end of the day, like I said in the beginning, and I said you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. Phenomenal idea. We all have them. But by yourself, it goes nowhere. Now I feel like I have a good team in year 2. I have a master editor. I have a guy who knows how to handle the classroom, And obviously myself having the knowledge of this whole entire world. And I think, man, that 3-headed monster, as far as the adults are concerned, is phenomenal that we have right now at Matter Lakes. Because we are all 3 so different. And granted, there's sometimes we don't see eye to eye, but we know at the end of the end of the road is always for the success of Matter Lakes. And not Matter Lakes a brand, Matter Lakes the students. Because we want them to grasp this and do well with it. And again, as far as students are concerned, man, where are we without Micah? Micah's literally the day one. Micah's the day one.
True.
The day one that I looked at and I said, what is this phone doing on a tripod? Are you crazy?
He was the one editing everything back then. So
Yeah.
No. He really got it off the ground with Ariel and the whole group. I mean, they really kind of set that foundation, right?
Yeah.
That foundation that was so important, and you all took it to the next level. But I'll tell you, Ariel, Micah, and Albertico, the way that Luis just said it right now is what he's told me privately. I remember when he couldn't be here when he was traveling, and I was like, Lou, what are we gonna do? He was like, nah, these guys. They got it.
You're in good hands.
They got it. And they said all the kids that are joining the academy, they're going to teach them. They're going to get better. But he did, just so full disclosure, he thinks the world of you all. And he told me that. He goes, because I was like, man, where are you going? What do you mean you're not coming? He goes, no. They're ready. They're ready. So,
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're all back together. But I'll tell you, he definitely thinks the world of you all. So I appreciate you. And in closing, I know we're going to see y'all next Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But we got the best voice here in Miami. He needs to close it out. I'm not closing that out today.
How are we going to close this out? We want to go with a Vox Populi, a strong. All right, I got this.
You pick, man. You pick. This is your world.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does it for 305 Vox Populi with the mayor, Manny Cid. We'll see you next Wednesday.
That's it.